Hello. We're going live from breakfast today because we're in a time crunch. Have a couples podcast. We're recording at 11. It's now 9. And we have to finish packing up and go do that. Yes. But today, I want to quickly talk about what causes generic or basic bitch messaging. You know, when you see someone posting, it's like they're literally just saying the same thing as like 50 other posts that you saw. Like, reach your highest potential, come home to yourself, make more money, stop playing small, like all that, you know? And it doesn't mean that any of that's wrong. It's just like, okay, what does that mean for you? And how have you transformed in those ways? Like, super specific nuance that has created your message. And what I realized is like the antithesis to nuance and specificity is shame. When we're still operating in these, I need to take my oatmeal off the burner. When we're still operating in these ways of like believing that we're too much or not enough because of suppressed shame that comes from our mother and father wounding, which a lot of comes from the industrialized culture that we're living inside of, that is currently offering us a window of different choice. And I really love the decolonized model of the window of tolerance. That is the window of choice, right? So a window of tolerance says like, how much of this bullshit can you tolerate until you're either dysregulated in the sense of fight or flight, so you're mobilized, hyper aroused, or dysregulated in the sense of you're frozen, shut down, hypo aroused. And those are the same as when I feel too much, I shrink. You know, it's like this with the body, trying to make myself small, literally, with our voice, with our message too, in our businesses. And so the flip side of that, father wound, expresses like anger, aggression, trying to overcompensate in the outward versus inwards collapse. That's when we see like corruption. That's when we see performing our worth for the algorithm, metrics, money, all these milestones, right? Within what window do we have the choice to operate in our authentic power, authentic essence, with this unconditioned love towards ourselves for our mission? I'm going to mobilize the system so that we have the choice of how we're operating, what business models and structures we're choosing to create. In my world, we don't just talk about the content, right? We're not just talking about your message and your offers. We're also talking about what business context are you operating within? Because the wider perspective of like what leads to generic basic business messaging motivated by shame is that we're all operating in this same like cesspool of business as productivity, as hitting more and more and more money, more and more numbers, greater volume of people. And so these wounds are actually leveraging that. And we did a live on that earlier. You can go check it out on my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And it's called How Marketing Exploits Wounds. And so what I do in my world to bring people into that window of choice, so we're no longer tolerating the bullshit, we're coming into our sovereign creator power to choose differently, context and content. It's really quite simple. The embodied evolution method is essentially we're having a conversation and I'm just tracking where the energy is moving or stagnating through your body. And from that, I'll lovingly bring it to your awareness and we'll give the energy a pathway to mobilize, which is energy in motion, emotion. So from that process, when the emotional charge gets to be seen, heard, and held, then it gets to be alchemized. So what's the next step? And that brings me into the New Earth business architecture. The next step is, okay, well, what message, what new context can I create within to have more specific and nuanced content? And so this is where we're weaving your story, your lived experiences, both in this like ego lineage, right? Our ancestral lineage and our soul lineage. When we integrate those two, that is your genius. You're embodying the life alchemist to create new meaning and root deeper into who you truly are, right? You see, it's very different than saying like, come home to yourself this whole life. And I'm breaking down my process, but like, how did I get here? What's my story? Right? I didn't even know who the fuck I was for a long ass time because I was so riddled with shame. I remember reading one of Brene Brown's books. She's a renowned shame researcher that's brought into like modern Western context what like indigenous people have always said. That vulnerability is the antithesis to shame. So the more I've been able to lean into my window of choice to share from empowered vulnerability, which means I've already walked myself through a process of emotional alchemy. A lot of my shame came from, again, my like father wounds of feeling too much, not enough. And so I'd always try to distort my expression, my words, into the context of the people around me. Because I was so scared of feeling misunderstood. I was so scared of feeling rejected. I was so scared of someone getting angry at me if there's a values misalignment. Like, I have values and ethics and worldview misalignments with 99.9999% of the people that I come across. So at some point I had to really be honest with myself and be like, who am I? What am I here to do? And can I stop smoking a bunch of weed, stop drinking my face off at every chance that I got, and like, you know, putting XYZ substances in my face and literally caking my face with makeup every day and wearing the same outfits that everybody's wearing from Randy Melville and Aritzia and Forever 21 and Zara and H&M, and working, I worked some office jobs, I worked some manager jobs at a yoga studio. I worked as a flight attendant, and that one was really cool because I actually got to experience different cultures and perspectives. I grew up in a tiny town in rural Canada that, like, the main industry is potato farming, so it's a lot of farmers. But what's interesting to me about that is that even though there's still like a village model of society going on, the industrialization has corrupted the village so that people aren't actually interdependent. They're just like gossiping, causing drama, and like competing with each other, right? And so this is the father wound, widespread in a social cultural context. So next time you are feeling frozen, feeling like what you have to say is too much, like I literally talk about alcoholism, drug use, childhood sexual assaults, being incarcerated and being in the psych ward in my content, because that's part of my story, right? And I can say that without emotional charge, without shame, because I have alchemized it and I've made it my message. I've rooted into a purpose for me. It's to be the embodiment of unconditional love and to ripple out that shift in perspective as something that changes business culture, it changes our social bonds, and creates new possibilities for people, right? And so how I do that, and I gotta go, is one, in all my relationships, but two, in my one-to-one mentorship spaces. So right now I have 3 spots open for Audacious, my signature 3-week intensive, where we're actually going to go through the process that I think about your message, think about your content, think about what you have to say, because you're embodied in it. And this allows us to alchemize our erotic shadow, which is where our desires live. In our shadow, we both have our inner gold and our wounds. So it's a process of discernment and sifting through that to accept, acknowledge, and transmute our wounds so that we can present inner gifts. The other way I work with people on 3 months, 1 year rebirth is a full spectrum liberation for wild visionary leaders who are growing movements that rebuild the village. And I have the application form for that one in the link in bio. And then if you're interested in Audacious, just DM me and we'll discuss best fit there. If you want to hear more about anything that I'm talking about, power dynamics, bringing the unconscious into the conscious, rooting into authentic power, New Earth business architecture, rebirth stories, activating our audacious frequency, all of it, go check out the Rich Revolutionaries podcast. I just relaunched for season 2 with the Power Play episode, part of what originally started off as the Power trilogy, but now it's a Power saga because I had so much to talk about the shadow. It became 2 parts. And the next episode, Shadow Play, part 1, is going to be dropping on Tuesday. So that is also linked in bio. Thanks so much. I gotta go. I love you. We'll talk again soon. Unshame yourself, liberate yourself, and let's do it together because I couldn't have done it alone. And so it's my greatest honor to be able to pour back and like complete that loop of reciprocity. That's what's good for me, it's good for my community, and good for the greater context of the collective. Okay, have a happy Monday. Bye.